introduce her. Deepa Padmanaban is an independent journalist and author writing on science, environment, biodiversity, wildlife conservation, public health, and climate change. Her stories have been published in The Guardian, Harvard Public Health Magazine, Discover Magazine, Scientific American, National Geographic, Mongabe, among others. She was a South Asia Speaks Fellow and Kiplinger Climate Fellow USA in 2022. She was awarded a special mention in the Environmental Impact category by the One World Media Awards UK in 2023. She worked as a biochemistry researcher at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Harvard University, USA. Invisible Housemates 2025 and Rewilding India 2025 are her most recent publications. We are really honored to have her here today, and without further ado, I will hand it over to her. Thank you, Deepa.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see all of you here on a Sunday morning. So my book, Invisible Housemates, is about 13 different creatures, animals, birds, and insects that live in and around our homes. So I've called it Invisible Housemates because most of us, I think, don't want them in our homes. You know, we would rather have them invisible. But I would like to ask you, especially the kids, have you all seen a cockroach or a lizard? And what is your reaction when you see one? Do you get scared and run away, or you scream, ah? You scream, yeah. Anybody else who's afraid of cockroaches? No? Okay, you are afraid of cockroaches, okay. So yes, I also used to, I was not afraid, but I used to despise cockroaches. But after writing this book, my opinion about cockroaches changed. And I hope that after hearing this talk, I will be able to change some of your perspectives about not just cockroaches, but many of these other animals and insects. So, okay. So today, when we want to send a message to our friend or anybody, what do we use? We all use our phones, right? We send WhatsApp messages, we send an email, or we call somebody. But imagine if you were living about 2,000 years ago and you wanted to send a message to your friend, what would you do? What would you use? Yeah, so back then, people used pigeons as messengers. Now, there were these wild rock doves. They were the wild birds that used to live mostly on the coastal areas, and they used to live on the ledges and rocks. And humans back then, they noticed that these birds had a very unique ability, that no matter where they flew, how far they flew, they would always come back home. And they then trained these birds, they domesticated these birds, and they trained them to carry messages. So if they wanted to send a message, they would tie a note to the leg of this bird, and the bird would fly and deliver the message and then come back. So they were called as homing pigeons because they would always come back home, or they were also called as messenger pigeons. And as the demand for these birds grew, many of the royal families or the elite who were very rich, they started building these huge structures called columbarium, in which they would breed these pigeons and they would keep them there. And thousands of pigeons were kept in these columbariums, and the people would then use them for sending messages. I'll come to so these pigeons can fly very fast, and for really long distances, they can fly about speed of 60 to 100 miles per hour, which is almost as fast as a sports car or a sports bike. So I'd like to tell you a story about a pigeon in World War I. So I don't know how many of you know about World War I. This happened in around 1914, 1915. So this was an American army that was fighting the German army in France. And this particular contingent, the section of this army, they were stuck. The German army was firing at them, and they had no way to get out. But they had lots of these messenger pigeons with them, close to about 100 or so. So so to make actually matters worse, there was another second contingent of an American army which was also firing at them. And they then realized that, because by the bullets they could make out that, there is another American army nearby. So they wanted to send a message to that second American contingent to say that, we are stationed here, we are caught here, and please save us. So they tried to send all these birds, the pigeons, with the note saying that we are here. Unfortunately, the German army shot down all the birds, and all of them died. There was finally only one bird left, whose name was Cher Ami, which means my dear friend in French. And so now all their hopes were left on this one lone pigeon. So they tied a note to the pigeon saying that we are here at this location, and for God's sake, stop firing on us. We are also Americans. So Cher Ami took off. The German army, like before, shot down the bird. Cher Ami came down, she collapsed. But I think somewhere inside, Cher Ami knew that this army was dependent on her to save them. So with great courage, she got up and she started flying again with great speed. She reached her destination, delivered the message, and about 200 American soldiers were rescued thanks to her. Unfortunately, because she was shot, she became blind in one eye and she lost a leg. That's the picture there of Cher Ami. But for her courage, the French government gave her the highest honor in battle that was normally given to humans, but it was given to this pigeon, Cher Ami. So isn't that an incredible story about how a pigeon could save the life of so many human beings? Now today, unfortunately, we don't have much use for pigeons. We have technology, and so most of these pigeons are now have been abandoned, and they're now wild. We call them feral pigeons, and it's a lot of people think that pigeons are a nuisance, and they don't want them around. But some people, they still they breed pigeons for racing. There are racing competitions held, and even in India, in Chennai and Bangalore and perhaps Hyderabad, I'm not sure, there are these racing events that are held. It's usually held at this time of the year, January, and there are huge prizes involved. They breed these pigeons, they feed them a special diet, and they have these racing competitions because, pigeons, like I said, they can fly really fast and they can fly over long distances. So coming to my next animal, next insect, which is cockroaches. Like I said, most of us don't like cockroaches. But we only know the cockroaches that are living in our homes, but did you know that there are 4,500 species of cockroaches around the world? And I have shown some pictures here. This one here on the top, it's called the Indian domino cockroach. It's found in the forests of India. And people actually buy them and keep them as pets. Although it is illegal, it's not legal to buy these cockroaches, but then people consider them to be very beautiful and pretty. So they buy these cockroaches and they keep them as pets. Can you imagine? Oh, I'm sorry. This one down here, this is the Indian domino cockroach. This is a cockroach found in Brazil. It's called the Mardi Gras cockroach. And similar to this Indian domino cockroach, people also buy these cockroaches and keep them as pets. Now, this here is called the giant burrowing cockroach. It's one of the heaviest cockroaches in the world. and it burrows deep into the soil. And one of the unique features of this cockroach is that it can live up to 10 years. Unlike the cockroaches that we find in our homes, they live only for a year. But this one can live up to 10 years, and it gives birth to live cockroaches. It does not lay eggs like all other cockroaches. This one here is called the hissing cockroach. These cockroaches are also, these are one of the longest cockroaches. They're pretty big, you can see. When two male cockroaches of these species, when they meet each other, they hiss at each other and they kind of fight, they're kind of territorial. They also have like tiny horns on their head, and they lock their horns with each other, and they kind of fight. So cockroaches, especially the cockroaches that live in and around our homes, they are of three varieties. There's the American cockroach, the German cockroach, and the Oriental cockroach. Now, scientists have found that the German cockroach, what we find in our homes, they communicate with each other, and they're able to identify each other by a chemical that they secrete. It's called the cuticular hydrocarbon. This has a very unique odor. So they can distinguish between their siblings and their non-siblings, which is quite amazing because each cockroach has about like 300 siblings or so. And they can find out like, oh, this is my brother and sister, and these are not my brothers and sisters. And they change their behavior according to whether it is, the brother or a sister or not a brother or a sister. Isn't that amazing how they can recognize each other, like 300 of them? So, did you know that cockroach racing is a big thing in Australia? This started in 1982 in a city called Brisbane, where two people, they were, drinking in a bar, and, what happens, right? Sometimes they get a little drunk. And two of them, they started arguing about which town has the fastest cockroaches. So what they did, they went and caught some cockroaches from a drain, and they started a race between the cockroaches to see which town has the fastest cockroach. Now, this silly game actually became, like we say today, it went viral. And now, a lot of towns across Australia have this cockroach racing. And there is even a day on Jan 26th, which is, a few days from now, which is the Australia Day. It is called as the Cockroach Racing Day, and there are many cities around Australia that host cockroach racing, and there are even prizes for the fastest cockroach. So this is how a cockroach race takes place. They go and just catch cockroaches, put them in a glass jar, and then there is a circular arena in which they release the cockroaches, and then whichever cockroach wins gets the prize. I mean, the owner gets the prize. And some of the names that are given to the winning cockroaches, just fun fact, like they've used names like Osama bin Laden, Alfred Hitchcocky, Kim Roche, Dashian. Just a fun fact. Okay. Coming now to rats. Rats are another species that most of us don't like. We all know, I think, the story about, the rat, which is a vehicle of Lord Ganesha. Right? How many of you know that? Yeah. But did you know how a rat became Ganesha's vehicle? Do you know the story? Okay, so the story goes that there's a king of gods called Indra. So Lord Indra was having a session in his court, and he had invited, a lot of the sages. Sages are people, like they are holy people who are very knowledgeable, and they're also a little bit powerful because of their knowledge. They're supposed to have some kind of powers. So these sages were there, and he had invited, the people of his court. One among them was a singer by the name of Krauncha, who was Indra's court singer. So we were all seated, like you all are sitting here, and Indra was sitting on his throne, and he called Krauncha to come towards him. Now, Krauncha got up and hurried towards Indra because he's the king. As he was hurrying, he stepped on the foot of a sage, and that sage got very angry, and he cursed Krauncha to turn into a giant rat. So Krauncha now became a giant rat, and rats, as we know, they go around and they destroy crops and fields because they need to eat the grains. So Krauncha started destroying all the crops on earth, and one day he came to an ashram of another sage, and as usual he started destroying the food there. And it so happened that Lord Ganesha was there at that ashram, and then he saw this Krauncha doing all this mischief, and he heard all the stories about how Krauncha was destroying crops on earth. So he said, okay, I have to teach this guy a lesson. And they had kind of a battle between Lord Ganesha and Krauncha, who was a giant rat now. And Krauncha then realized after some time that this is Lord Ganesha and he cannot win against him. So he surrendered to Lord Ganesha, and he said, please take me as your vehicle. And that's how the story goes, that Krauncha, who was a heavenly singer, turned into a giant rat and then eventually became Lord Ganesha's vehicle. Now, these are the brown rat, and there are many different species of rat. The brown rat and the black rat is what we see in and around our houses, and most of us, don't like them because they cause diseases, and they also eat our garbage, and they're called as pests. But there is people have developed this white rat, which are used in laboratories, and these rats have really helped us with a lot of information. Research has been done on them, and they have really helped humans with a lot of discoveries for medicine and health. Okay. Some more fun facts about rats. Some scientists have done some experiments with rats, and here you can see this. They found that rats love to be tickled. They found that when they tickle them on their bellies or on their neck, the rats start giggling. I mean, you can't see them giggle, but they've used certain techniques, and they found that there are parts in their brain that light up when they are tickled, and scientists believe that they are laughing when they are giggled. And the rats, apparently, they remember who has tickled them, and they like to play with them again and again. Isn't that amazing? Now, they did another experiment with rats. They paired two rats together for a few weeks, and after the 2 weeks when they were together, they put one rat in a cage, and the other rat was let to roam around. But the rat that was out had the option of freeing the rat that was inside the cage. Now, though it took a few days for that rat to figure out how to open that cage, but every time, every experiment they did, they found that that rat always opened the cage and tried to free the rat that was inside. And the scientists even tried to bribe the rat that was out with some chocolates, saying that, you have the chocolates and don't, release the cage rat. But the rats, they refused the bribe, and they chose to free their friend rather than take the chocolate. Isn't that great? I mean, how many of us humans would do that, right? If we see a chocolate, we would rush towards the chocolate. No? That's good. So a lesson for us humans that, always help your friend in need, right? So these rats that we don't like have so many lessons to teach us. Okay. Coming next to frogs. How many of you have seen frogs? Today, I don't think we see many frogs around us, but there was a time when frogs were quite common in cities where I grew up. I mean, I didn't grow up, but where I lived in Bangalore, there were a lot of frogs in and around my house. And every time I would step out of the house, I had to be careful not to step on a frog. But today, unfortunately, there are no frogs where I live because it's a concrete jungle and the frogs have all disappeared. But there are some interesting stories about frogs in our mythology. So this is here on this side. This is a story about Lord Agni. You know, Lord Agni was the god of fire. The story goes that, Lord Agni was approached by the other gods to go and distract Shiva. It seems that Lord Shiva was so much in love with his wife Parvati that he had forgotten all his godly duties. So the gods were worried that, he's not doing his duties. So they asked Agni to, go and distract him so that he will forget Parvati and come back to doing what he had to do. But Lord Agni got very scared. Do you know why he got scared? Any idea? They say that Shiva has this third eye, right? And when he gets angry, he opens the third eye, and then whoever is in front of him gets burnt. So Lord Agni got very scared. He didn't want to do what the gods asked him. So he ran away and he hid in a pond. And because he is a god of fire, the pond started getting hot. So the frogs that were living in that pond were, they were getting hot because the water was getting heated up. So they apparently told the gods that, Lord Agni is hiding here, please take him away. So Lord Agni got very angry with the frogs because, they had disclosed his location to the gods. So he cursed the frogs, saying that you will never be able to speak again and you can only croak. And another fact is that, this is a fact, not a story, that frogs were one of the first animals, land animals, to actually develop vocal cords. So the story is that Agni cursed them that, they can only croak, and I think many of us have heard the frogs croaking. This is another story, or rather a belief in India, especially in the villages. People have this belief that, whenever there is a drought or there is not enough rain, that if they get two frogs married, then they will have rain. So they actually find two frogs from a well or a pond, and they dress them up, in wedding attire, and they actually perform a ritual to get them married. Now, what happened once in 2019 in a village where there was no rain, the villagers actually did this frog wedding, and then it started raining after that, surprisingly. And it rained so much that now they were afraid that it is going to turn into a flood. And then they said, oh, now what do we do? Because it's raining so much. So then they decided, let's divorce the frogs. So they went and, separated the frogs, and they said, okay, let's hope that the rain stops. Of course, the rain didn't stop. So, like I said, there are many species of frogs. There are 6,000 species of frogs, and they have some amazing characteristics. So, for example, here, this one here is called the glass frog. The glass frog is like, it's a transparent frog. So if it is sitting on the, it's usually found in the forest. When it's sitting there, you can't even see it. It's like almost invisible because it's kind of camouflaged with the background. But when you turn it over, you can actually see all the organs inside. You can see the heart, the intestines. It's, very, very transparent. This frog here is called the wood frog, and it has a superpower. Any guesses what it could be? So this frog can freeze its entire body. When it is very, very cold, it can freeze its entire body, and it'll just lay still under the ice for weeks. It won't move. It'll be completely frozen. Nobody will know it is there. And when the winter is over, and it starts getting warm, it will slowly thaw out, the body thaws out, and it is back to normal again. So scientists are actually studying this frog to see how it is doing it, because they feel that, we humans can benefit from this ability. This frog here, this is called the Indian bullfrog. It is the largest frog found in India, and it has these blue color sacs here, which they turn blue actually only in the monsoon, and the males have this color in order to attract another female. This frog here on top, this is called the leaf litter frog. And this frog, scientists have found that when it is threatened, it lifts its head and it'll open its mouth wide as if it is going to let out a scream. But they can't hear anything. And then they found that, they use some instruments and they found that it is actually shouting, but actually humans can't hear it. So it is a very high frequency sound that, the instrument could catch. So it makes that noise when it is threatened, but maybe some other animals can hear it. So frogs also have different species of frogs have different cries and different ways of, the croaks. And some of them, like I said, like this is almost silent, and there are, scientists are actually studying the different types of voices or croaks that they have. Okay, so coming to monkeys, monkeys once were, in the forest around us, but today we see a lot of monkeys in our cities. We all know the stories of Hanuman, right? And there's also a story in the Chinese culture where they also worship a monkey there called the Monkey King. I'd like to tell you a real life story of a monkey. I think it was 1959. So scientists were studying, they had already sent different animals and insects into space. A dog had been sent into space, but the dog did not survive. So this monkey, this is a rhesus monkey and a spider monkey called Abel and Miss Baker. In 1959, the scientists sent these two monkeys on a space mission. They went for about 15 minutes into space, and they came back alive. So it was based on this mission, actually, then the scientists studied how they survived, and then that, enabled humans to then go into space. I mean, after this, Neil Armstrong was, as we all know, the first human to enter the space, but it was thanks to these two monkeys. And they were so, successful because, I mean, they became so famous that they actually went on a tour across America, and a lot of people then came to see them, wherever they went around. So coming to crows, there are a lot of stories about crows, but I'll just tell these two quick stories. This is actually an experiment done in a university by scientists, where they sent out some people wearing a scary-looking mask, and they went and captured some of the crows that were, living on the campus, and they brought it back to the lab. And after some time, they just released the crows. And then there were some others who did not wear any mask, and they were just walking around. So there were two sets of people, one who wore the scary mask and one without any scary mask, who went, and the crows started cawing, and they were shouting at the people who are wearing that scary mask, because they realized that these were the people who had caught them. And what happened after a few weeks and months, even the other crows who had not been captured, who had not even seen these scary masks before, they started cawing at them and shouting at them. So the news had traveled among all the birds that these people who are wearing the scary mask are dangerous and stay away from them. So in fact, even up to 5 years later, even the birds who had come, much later to that place, they knew that they had to stay away from these masks, and they would start cawing and shouting at those crows there. So the news had traveled, from one bird to the other bird. And this is another in Russia, I think this was observed, that this crow would pick up a lid of a bottle and fly up to the roof that had snow on it, and it would use it as a slide and slide down, and it'd pick up the lid again and go up and again slide down. So it was having fun, and this was interesting because crows are also playing and having fun just like human beings. So this was another interesting observation. Oh, okay. That's the end of my storytelling session. And there are just, if you're interested, there is a quiz here for some of you. What is the name of the structure that was used in ancient times to store pigeons, if any of you remember? Columbarium, yes. How fast can racing pigeons fly? 60 to 100 miles per hour. How many species of cockroaches are there worldwide? 4,500. How do cockroaches communicate? They secrete a chemical, and that chemical has a smell, and they kind of communicate through that. So before turning into Lord Ganesha's rat, who was he originally? Yes, correct. Which frog can freeze its entire body? Wood frog, yeah. These are the answers. So thank you so much, everybody. My book is available at the bookstore. If you're interested, please buy them, yeah. Yes, and open to questions. Anybody like to ask questions or share your experience with any one of these animals? Happy to hear.
These kind of insects or animals to, research about, like.
So the question she asked is, how did I choose these insects and animals? So mostly it was, what I have personally experienced, have interacted with them. And the second thing is that I chose animals and insects which are either have been categorized as pests, right? Like I said, the cockroach and the rat and the pigeons, and animals like frogs, and there are other sparrows which I've not talked about. All of these, it is because of our human interactions with them that they either become too much, too abundant, that we have now called them pests, or they have kind of decreased. Like I said, frogs and sparrows are now vanishing in our cities. So those are the two kind of groups that I chose. One that have become too much and one that are kind of vanishing, mainly because of how we humans have treated them or interacted with them. Yes?
You said that like one type of cockroach gives birth to live young instead of laying eggs.
Yes.
But when you lay eggs, like they lay around 300 at a time. So when they're giving birth, do they give birth to less cockroaches or?
Yes, they won't give, actually I don't know the number, but yes, it won't be 300, it will be much less.
Thank you.
Welcome. Use the mic, please, I can't hear.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Thank you for the session. So, does your book focus on invisibility of these species, or your book also stresses on making them visible?
Yes, my book is hopefully to try to make them visible. Invisible, it's because, most of us don't pay attention to them, or we don't want them in our homes. So that is why it is called invisible. But my hope is that after reading this, that people will start paying more attention to them, or not just pay more attention to them, think about how we are interacting with them, right? And maybe, we had this session yesterday where we talked about how, humans think that we are kind of playing God and trying to control and manipulate all these creatures. And sometimes we don't know what we are doing, and either then they become too many, and then then we say, oh, now they are pests and we need to get rid of them, or like I said, some of them are vanishing. So just to be more aware of these creatures around us and how we are interacting with them, or how we are not just our own actions. Sometimes it may not even be intentional, right? Sometimes it's just unintentional that they are either becoming too much or too less.